Young David was ashamed of his flabby body, and this caused him to miss out on a substantial part of his childhood. And nearly all of his teenage years were spent in oversized shirts and stretched out hoodies. He had become so anxious that he would lose all of his balance just walking to his desk. And maybe this sounds like you. If it does, you're likely struggling with your weight. And, maybe you've tried exercising, eating less, or, but nothing seems to work. You're probably starting to feel quite hopeless and shameful for not being able to rough it out like David Goggins or Jocko or, all these other fitness YouTubers or, inspirational people. And there's a good chance you've visited YouTube Fitness. Actually, that's a bit of a different video. But sit down, bro. Today, I want to alleviate this pain for you and teach you about nutrition. It's a very unsexy answer compared to the new ab exercise variant or a 12-week summer program, but it's one that I and countless others have found the most long-term success in, and it's free. So, who am I? My name is David, and I started this journey, actually getting consistent and serious in it, a little over 2 years ago. My fitness journey started at 256 pounds, right? And I struggled for a couple years to make any sort of progress, right? Ultimately, I received an observation, we'll call it, from the man I respect most in my life, my grandfather. And to this day, I can't really remember what the man said, but it was enough to make me so uncomfortable that the next 2 years of my weight training and 10,000 steps a day, daily hikes, would become obsolete, completely obsolete. And like you, I began in YouTube Fitness, acedemics, I consumed everything I could, even taking notes, from More Plates, More Dates to Jeff Cavalier's acedemics, and even Greg Doucette's and Thomas DeLauer. I studied it all, and there was a lot that I came to learn, and I believe that it was all necessary to form the mindset that I carry with me today. But if I can save anyone from wasting the months, nearly years that I did, not to mention the eating disorders, body image issues, and eating phobias, let this video serve that purpose. So, the first thing that I want to get into is the lies of the fitness industry. The first thing I learned along my journey was how fitness YouTubers market, right? And this may seem unrelated, but stick with me. When I first discovered these YouTube channels, these fitness YouTube channels, I was really appreciative of the advice that I was being given, and I really took it to heart as best I could. Even taking notes, as I said, on all of the contents that I could, or all of the contents that I deemed important. And as I was directed from video to video, I realized while looking at my notes that this doesn't look right. So I went back through and I rewatched each of the videos, and sure enough, I was right. All of the advice that I had been given was contradictory to itself. All of it. Now, maybe these guys just suck at making videos, or maybe their opinions have changed since new medical studies are being released all the time that each point to different answers. But my belief is that they do this intentionally. They make it an inherently simple concept that has very fundamental truths to it and shroud it in mystery and controversy and drama and uninformed opinions, so that way they can confuse an already frustrated audience to buy their $399 courses. And they play on the impatience of you, the viewer, due to being, so, the impatience that you have due to being so upset and uncomfortable with your own body, by giving you the answer and then saying, oh wait, but this article shows this instead, and then they add Oh wait, but that's not it either, you know? And then finally they end up saying some shit along the lines of, do you want all the answers? Buy my 12-week full fitness and diet plan. You know, we skip all the bullshit and teach you how to do everything. You know, it's a just walk through. We walk you right through it. Alright? And you do, because, you know, it's only natural to give up and want someone else to take over by this point. You're so emotionally drained by all the negative emotions, and you're cognitively drained by the negative emotions, and, you know, you give in. Now, next I want to mention that there is a lot we can talk about with nutrition. I could do a full 2-hour course guide on it, on all the macronutrients and, you know, and that's not even deciding like the eating disorders and the psychological habits behind food, and there's an entire mess, right? Most of it is explaining or debunking all the lies that you've been fed by the fitness industry and undertrained coaches with cheap at-home certifications that haven't really practiced anything that they preach. However, what I want to share with you instead is the primary factor that helped me break free from all of it, and that's eating habits. So, you've been given these 12-month programs and, you know, super restraining diets, the routines, but what happens when it ends? What happens when life gets in the way? And what happens when you're no longer able to shop at the same store, buy the same food? You know, you need the flexibility to adapt with your life. And with many of the programs that I see out there, no one really ever goes into the why. You know, they just kind of do it for you and give you the spreadsheets and give you the plans. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know how important this is. It'll usually be a very unsexy and lengthy answer, but it brings tremendous value. Once you can understand what you're doing and why you're doing it a certain way, you can look for other, maybe more beneficial ways to do it. You know, for example, if you're eating a certain thing for some reason because a YouTuber promoted it, learn why you're eating it, and you might have a more locally and a cost-efficient option. You know, that's a very basic example, but you can apply this in so many different ways. So just be able to think for yourself rather than have to spend $200 every few months to get the latest up-to-date tips and tricks and diet hacks, right? Don't be so reliant on other people. You know, we're all about independence and stuff. Become more independent. So, what are eating habits? And how can they help you understand nutrition? Put very simply, eating habits are how you view food and how you treat food, how you use food. And again, there is a lot that I can say about this topic, but the things that helped me understand the most, or the things that helped me the most, were mindful eating, staying hydrated, and eating more, not less. Yes, you heard me correct. So first I want to get into what is mindful eating, right? I'm sure you've heard of mindfulness if you've watched any other self-improvement journey or self-improvement videos. Well, you might say, you also might be still stumped on the eating more, not less. But, you know, let me explain. So a lot of dietary issues have to do with one's mind and how they view food. This is where mindful eating comes into play, and it's essentially where you focus on eating your meal and only your meal, you know? Just focus on being in the present and focus on how your meal tastes, how it smells, how it looks, things like that. Sounds pretty simple, right? And you might be thinking this is completely irrelevant. But have you ever heard that you should snack you shouldn't snack while watching a movie because you mindlessly graze? The same thing happens when you're using your phone and eating, right? What should you do instead? Turn off your phone and focus on eating your meal. Give it your full attention. appreciate the taste, texture, warmth. It's only for a few minutes, and you'll have your phone back with you in no time. Another tip that I could give is to not eat so quickly and chew more. If you want to get into the whole nitty gritty of it, it's just like an increased leptin and ghrelin response. Those are two hormones that control your hunger and satisfaction, and we're not going to go into all that, but there's scientific evidence that proves this. And you may have heard these before. I'm not going to go really far in depth of them, but they do make you feel more full, which leads to the next point: hydration. Hydration can help you in so many different ways, okay? From cognitive function to muscular endurance to, what we're going back here, satiety control. It's another tool you can use to avoid overeating is to drink water, right? And have you ever heard about, not to drink too much before eating, during, or after eating your meals because, you feel bloated? Well, that's an additional way you can use water. But what I was going for was, the function that I was going for was limiting sweets. A lot of the times we think we have a craving for sweets. It's actually our body saying it's thirsty and that it wants water. Right, now correct me if I'm wrong here, okay? So take this with a big grain of salt. But I believe the reason behind this is that your body can't really communicate specifically what it needs. All it knows is to send a signal to your mind, and from there, your primal brain takes over and starts going over down the food hierarchy. And sweets are placed relatively high on this hierarchy, right? Because it's associated with fruit, and fruits have not only sugar, which is the body's preferred form of energy, but it tastes nice, but it contains some juiciness to it, which can quench your thirst, right? But that's a little too specific, and I don't expect any of you guys to look too far into that. But next point is eat more, not less. And this is probably the most important thing when it comes to dieting or trying to lose weight, trying to gain weight, anything. Okay? It's a simple psychological process that has been extensively studied for both dietary and addiction therapy. But when you take something away or focus on abstaining from something, you want it even more. You can think of this like a rebellious teenager, right? Who just wants to do the opposite of everything their parents say. It's been shown countless times that, and I've experienced this in all forms of life, from quitting junk food, from quitting porn, from quitting masturbation and video games, that trying to limit, take away, or quit, things always backfires drastically, and it can even cause you to develop what's called the fear of missing out, or FOMO for short. I'm sure you've heard of that. But it's essentially where you do things not because you want to, but because you're afraid of never being able to experience it again. Okay? And this is a bit of a personal example, and I know this video has been quite long. I'll try to wrap it up shortly, but this may help your understanding of what I'm talking about. Maybe you can relate. My mom loves free trials, right? I mean, who doesn't? But oftentimes I hear my mom say something along the lines of, not today, I have to finish the rest of this show. Or I won't be able to access it anymore. I have 3 seasons left and my deal ends tomorrow. And it breaks my heart to hear, but this is an example of FOMO, fear of missing out. What does all this mean? Okay, I know this has gotten maybe kind of disconnected in some areas, but what does all this come down to? Eat more of the good things. The things that'll help fill you up and provide you with energy. We don't want to eat just tubs of lard. We want to provide our body with what it needs to recover, right? Maybe you go to the gym or play a sport. That's great. For those of you who don't, that's perfectly fine. It's not needed. But if you are interested in that, I'll have another video on how to start lifting coming soon on my channel, and you can subscribe to see that. But what should you eat, right? If all it comes down to is eating and physical exercise isn't necessary, what should you eat? Protein. One word. If you want to do more, fiber. Protein and fiber specifically. If you still have a bunch of processed foods in your diet, it's completely okay. You aren't supposed to completely throw out your cupboard and replace it with all new healthy alternatives. That's just extremely expensive, right? Don't make a conscious effort to, keep or remove or add the processed foods. Just consume them like you normally would. But be sure to add in a nice steak or chicken breast, maybe some stir fry or roasted veggies, and add at least one full meal of these things a day. And subconsciously, as you start eating more and more of this stuff, you'll actually lose the desire to, for other processed things that were in your diet. Now, a common objection that I hear is that buying healthy food is hard, or cooking is hard. I can't cook. I'm not creative, or veggies don't taste good. If that sounds like you, I was the exact same way. I have a video that tells you all about how I overcame it and achieved a body that I can hardly recognize as my own. If you're interested in seeing that, like the video and comment down below telling me which video you'd like to see first. The one where I was talking about buying healthy food and cooking, or the one where I was talking about what was it? Jeez. Let me go back through my notes here. You know what, bro? You remember. You remember better than I do. You just watched the video. But stay on task and just eat more, not less.